Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected, and welcome. And we were talking about climate change news of the day, but you know, it's a very broad subject. Very broad. What I forgot to do some things. It's been a very busy morning, and so I had a hard time getting the show together in time. But where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And where is it? Where'd it go? Crapo, I had something I wanted to cover. Okay. I think this is it. All right. Well, first of all, there was a fairly large volcano that erupted today. Did y'all hear about this? What does this have to do with climate change? Well, the fact that the Earth is getting warmer, obviously, in many people's minds, contributes to tectonic plate activity and or volcanic activity. Is this caused by climate change? I don't know. I don't know if anybody can make a definitive correlation. And on the flip side of that, this will have some kind of global dimming effect. So, I don't know. Maybe there's a reason to cheer for volcanoes because we'll get some cooling for a little while. I don't know. It's a pretty big plume. Here's from space. This is from Scott Duncan, by the way. That's what it looked like from space. Eruptions. More plumes. The volcano has been rumbling for over a decade. Rumbling. So there you go. This is, what is this, a time lapse? Maybe? Yeah. So there, what's this? Oh, wow. Maybe we should have some sound. Or maybe it doesn't matter. Well, there you go. So volcanic activity. Basil Peterson says, -20 wind chills this morning. Damn volcanoes. Yeah, they act quick, right? Hello. Why does this keep saying this on Rockfin? Hello, all my people of Rockfin. We have some people hanging out with us on Rockfin. Please come hang out with me on Rockfin, ROKFIN.com. Hold on one second. Now they're giving me sound. I don't care. Yeah, too late. Oh, we got some Rocky Horror Picture Show fans. What's up? Poppy Davis, Laura Neufeld, Osama, Urban Hermit, Raza, Snake 1974. Who else? Who else? Come hang out with us on Rockfin. Anyways, let's move on. This is a crazy story. I just heard this. Creative Experiment says Earth is pretty powerful and can kill us. That's funny. Osama says the pics and vids of Etna from last week were insane. I didn't see any of those. Plus 4C to minus 30C yesterday here in northern Quebec, says Robert Arajo. Valhalla says the only place in the solar system that anything other than a water bear can survive is Earth. Yeah. Okay, so I heard this story first thing this morning when I woke up. I was listening to Fault Lines, Jamal Thomas's show, and Shane Stranahan. And right at the end of the show, a caller called in and said, "Hey, guys, did you know there's a hunger strike going on in Chicago?" And they were like, "What?" You know, and nobody's really heard about this story. And this article is from yesterday. So there's been a hunger strike going on for a month over a recycling plant in Chicago, and nobody has been talking about it, and you know, for various reasons, and of course, you know, any mainstream news is going to try and not cover this story for as long as possible, I'm sure. But this is an interesting story nonetheless, and you know, brings in a lot of disparate factors. You know, you have a recycling plant, which is supposed to be good, a good thing or positive thing, but this recycling plant creates a lot of pollution. That's a bad thing. And this recycling plant is being located in a mostly minority community. That's environmental racism. That's a bad thing. And you have people, you know, protesting and fighting back to the extent of going on a hunger strike. So they're really, really protesting this and trying to get people's attention around this. And, you know, hunger strikes are obviously never a fun thing to do, but also the fact that people are willing to go to this length to protest something that they don't want in their community, I think is a positive thing. So there's a lot of different factors in this story. But anyways, Chicago hunger strike against recycling plant grows. We're starving ourselves to save people's lives. Activists oppose metal shredder moving to East Side. A low-income Latino community reeling from the effects of industrial pollution. Hunger strikers on Chicago's southeast side have gone nearly 4 weeks without food. That's a long time. Where are they at, health-wise, after 4 weeks? And now the city is beginning to reconsider its stance on the controversial metal shredder that started it all. I share your commitment to equity and fully understand that our frontline communities, particularly on the south and west sides of Chicago, have been significantly impacted by environmental pollution and other compounding environmental issues for multiple generations, wrote Lori Lightfoot, the city's mayor, in a letter from last Tuesday. And then you have, another factor is that Lori Lightfoot is a LGBT black mayor in Chicago, and she's actually done some pretty heinous things, as mayor of Chicago. Her identity aside, she's done some pretty, she's actually kind of just followed in the footsteps of previous Chicago mayors of being, I don't know if you want to call it corrupt, but indifferent to the plight of the people in Chicago. Maybe we'll call that corrupt. But, she's done some very controversial, not so great things. Anyways, and she's now there, she's kind of not dismissing this issue, but apparently she is not addressing it strongly enough for the people who are opposed to this recycling plant. On February 4th, 3 community activists vowed to go without food until the city stops a metal shredder from moving into the east side, a low-income Latino community already reeling from the effects of industrial pollution. Since then, 8 others, including an elected city official, have joined the hunger strike. They held a candlelight vigil in front of City Hall on Tuesday. It is immoral, it is discriminatory, and we cannot allow this plant to operate in a pandemic when we can prevent it, said Byron Sigcho Lopez, the 25th Ward alderman who has joined the hunger strike as long as it's needed. On Friday, Sigcho Lopez, a Democratic socialist, who represents a majority Latino neighborhood similarly affected by heavy industry, introduced a resolution to support the hunger strike, but a majority of Chicago City Council, including the local alderman who has professed support of the hunger strike, voted not to consider it. Amid numerous EPA violations, Reserve Management Group, RMG, a metal recycling company, recently closed a similar scrapyard on the city's predominantly white, affluent north side. Southside Recycling, which will use some equipment from the General Iron facility, including pollution controls, is considered by residents and local activists to be its reincarnation. So they changed their name, and they're opening up this facility under a new name, I guess. Metal shredding can be a dangerous business. Dr. Susan Buchanan, public health professor at the University of Illinois, Chicago, says the particulate matter that typically emanates from these facilities can cause severe respiratory and cardiovascular conditions. Steve Joseph, CEO of RMG, maintains the site will be enclosed and removed from public view, and almost nothing about it resembles General Iron. Grassroots organizers on the southeast side characterize the move as yet another example of environmental racism to hit the community, which has high rates of asthma. The area is already contaminated by businesses that dump more than 1 million pounds of toxins into the air every year. The permits that allowed the facility to start construction have come under scrutiny from federal investigators. The U.S. EPA is currently reviewing complaints that Illinois' EPA's approval has further concentrated polluting industries in a majority black and brown neighborhood, while the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, is investigating, with assistance from the U.S. Department of Justice, the city's role in facilitating the metal shredders' move south. My team is working to fully evaluate the implications of these federal inquiries for this process, Lightfoot wrote. In a separate letter uncovered by the Chicago Tribune, the mayor's lawyers asked the U.S. EPA for guidance, saying it was crucial that the outcome of the city's permitting process be based on a legitimate Illinois EPA authorization. Though that same legal department has denied the legitimacy of HUD's investigation into the city. Wow. Hunger strikers called Lightfoot's response insulting in a joint statement. We believe that this administration would sooner let Southeast Siders starve in our hunger strike than commit to taking any real steps to address the issues, they wrote. After reading the mayor's statement, Yesenia Chavez said she had to lie down because of high blood pressure. We're literally starving ourselves to save people's lives, and for the mayor to keep mentioning she wants to continue a conversation with us is dismissing how we're putting our health at risk right now, said Chavez, a lifelong Southeast Side resident on day 22 of her hunger strike. Environmental and social justice organizations across the city and the country have mobilized around the Southeast Side, pledging one-day hunger strikes in solidarity. As hard as it is to digest the city's lackluster response, it's more important for us to keep going toward environmental reform to save families being affected right now, said Chavez. One more death because of air pollution and industrial abuse is just one too many for us to accept. Wow, yeah. And isn't that the way that it goes, that industries that pollute in the environment and communities are generally located in communities of color, minority communities. Well, they're also located in developing countries, right? They're, if they're not located in communities of color or poorer neighborhoods in the U.S., they're just located somewhere outside of the U.S. where regulations do not apply, or nobody sees the devastation that's going on in India or Indonesia or China, wherever it is that your wonderful cheap thing that you bought at Target yesterday was made. How those communities and the environment there is completely devastated. That's how this continues to keep on going. And how should we live? How would it be how could we live so that we do not devastate the environment? Any guesses? How is it that we should transform our lives, or transform the way in which we organize our lives, so that we do not pollute the environment or destroy the environment or pollute people who have no agency or little agency to defend themselves from this pollution? How should we organize our lives? I ask you. What are the things we can do in our own lives? What are the actions we can take? What are the different ways in which we can conduct ourselves so that we can stop this destruction? But man, it's a pretty crazy story, and kudos to the people that are taking this seriously, so seriously that they're going on hunger strike to stop this from happening. Sandy says, get rid of the system. Can it be done? Regan Parrington says, we don't. We continue to exploit until exhaustion. What's up? Save, like, and share. How you doing, everybody? Say what's up to Muzza. Save, like, and share. Obsolete Optics says, to answer your question, Kevin, mutual aid. Realize says, give a hoot, don't pollute. Never be a dirty bird. Yeah. Oh, Reagan. Okay, sorry, Reagan. Jay Thadcast says the great human enlightenment is just around the corner, maybe at 8 billion. Android Generic asks, is America living in the 80s? Yes. Answer, correct. Anyways, yeah, pretty crazy story. And I just, yeah, when I heard that, I was like, whoa, wow. And they, Shane and Jamar were like, whoa, what's going on? People were pretty, they were pretty shocked at this story. But let's move on to the last thing I want to cover today, or talk about, and it's a fairly large discussion. But if you guys remember when I told you the other day about this back and forth I had with some people about population, the guy telling me that the population of the Earth could fit inside the state of Texas. As if like, see how much room we have, see how much space we have. It's because it's just about space. But it was in response to this. It was in response to somebody posting this article or this study. And I've actually talked about this woman, Shanna Swan, the epidemiologist. I've talked about, she's been on several shows discussing her findings, or discussing the where we're going, the human species is going. And this is pretty much all about altering ourselves and our environment in unwanted and unforeseen ways, that will facilitate some very bad, a bad future for us. So hold on, let's go back. I'm just over here being nervous and clicking links that don't need to be clicked. Declining sperm counts, nature's answer to overpopulation. And this is by Kurt Cobb from February 28th, 2021. Epidemiologist Shanna Swan projects that on current trends, sperm counts will reach 0 by 2045. So somebody posted this on Twitter, and someone else was like, "Yeah, is this this is nature doing the job of nature, right? Because we think we're so smart, ha ha ha. We've developed all these ways to avoid death, or avoid illness, or escape disease, or escape discomfort, or escape hard work, or escape living life as an animal, an evolved animal on this planet, right? We just all of our technological advances that we see as so awesome and so cool and so great, the rest of the planet is not so sure about that. Yeah, maybe good for you. Anyways, that shocking conclusions comes from a new book by Swan and her colleague Stacy Colino. So sperm counts will reach 0 by 2045. That is not very far from now. Real soon. Is this nature's way of bringing human population under control? More on that later. In a 2017 study, Swan and colleagues looked at 244 estimates of sperm concentration and total sperm count from 185 studies of 42,000, almost 43,000 men who provided semen samples in 1973 through 2011 in Northern Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. North America, excuse me. Men elsewhere may fare better, but the causes of this trend suggest that it is worldwide. Swan told The Guardian that she blames so-called everywhere chemicals found in plastics, cosmetics, and pesticides that affect endocrines such as phthalates and bisphenol A. She also pointed to unhealthy lifestyle choices, including the use of tobacco and marijuana, and to rising obesity. Oh, you mean marijuana's not good for everything? Oh my God. I say that facetiously, but marijuana is pretty cool, but not for everybody. Not for me. I don't smoke marijuana, and I don't recommend people sit around and smoke it all day. Probably gonna melt your brain. But have a good time doing that, and to rising obesity. Obesity itself has been linked to increasing human endocrine disruption from these same chemicals. In fact, Swan's warning is not new, even though her study makes it more urgent. The issue of endocrine disruption from toxic chemicals burst into public view in 1996 with the publication of Our Stolen Future, which detailed the research on endocrine disrupting chemicals for a lay audience. There have been some minor victories. Bisphenol A has been largely removed from food containers voluntarily by food processors, but it is still found in many products, and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration still claims it is quote-unquote safe. I asked at the beginning of this piece whether declining sperm counts is nature's way of limiting human population. The current trend would not just reduce population but lead to extinction within a century. It is as if the 2006 film Children of Men, which I immediately thought about when I read the headline of this, has been remade with a slightly different plot line. An analogy for our predicament might be yeast used in winemaking. The yeast at first feast on the sugars in the wine, reproducing wildly. In the process, the yeast produce alcohol as a waste product. Eventually, the fermentation process stops as the yeast consume the available sugar, and as the alcohol concentration rises and eventually kills the yeast. Lest yeast be killed. Got a million of them. Anyways, we are very much like these yeast as we create toxic chemicals through our industrial processes and then disperse them in ways that allow them to enter the human body. The question we need to ask ourselves is whether we are no smarter than yeast. Yes, this is a perennial question among those who understand population biology. Swan's answer might be that so far we are looking more like yeast than humans having free will. Humans are very fond of telling themselves stories about how they differ from other animals, and even how humans are not really animals at all. Hardy har har. The truth is that given all that humans have done to destroy other species, the animals may rejoice when the last human is gone from the planet. Whether we give them that satisfaction depends entirely on a mix of politics, money, and public pressure. All this is certainly a more complicated process than yeast in a wine bottle, but right now it looks like the result may be the same. If Swan is right, the only path to survival of the human species, other than a voluntary end to the production and use of these dangerous industrial chemicals, would be the collapse of industrial civilization itself. Ding, ding, ding. Wouldn't it be ironic if that's what it takes to save the human race? Great article by Kurt Cobb. Man, he hits so many good points in there, and doesn't really get into, doesn't stray into kind of goofball, romanticism about how humans are going to be just fine. Wow. Yeah, surprising, frightening, or maybe not that surprising. This is only one of the ways in which we are setting ourselves up for extinction. It's not it is not just sperm counts, but that's, one of the very big ways we are going to make our thin the herd, if you will, or make ourselves non-operational on this planet. There are many ways we are making ourselves non-operational on this planet, and sperm counts aren't the only way, but it is one of the ways that's indicating, that our actions are having consequences. It's almost like Earth is engaging in cancel culture or consequence culture, if you want to be really smart ass about it. Yeah, Earth is about to cancel humans for their bullshit, to put it succinctly. And, that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we can't, pull the proverbial heads out of the rear ends of the head. You know what I'm saying? Do I know what I was saying? Anyways, yeah, But there are, a whole bunch of humans out there, and on places such as Twitter and other friendly confines. Sounds like some liberal goopity gap. Sounds like some real, liberal doublespeak baboobs. I can't listen to this anymore. What are you saying? Whatever. Anyways. Yeah, and again, I pose the question, what do we do in the face of this knowledge? In which way should we live in the face of this knowledge? What are the ways we could transform our society and ourselves and the way we conduct ourselves, given this knowledge, now that we know? So, yeah. I mean, it's just an unfortunate fact. That's an unfortunate fact that that's what's happening. Unless we, take a 180-degree turn and quickly decouple ourselves from industrial civilization and quickly dismantle industrial civilization in many ways. And by dismantling, I'm not talking about, I'm not necessarily talking about like violence. I'm talking about dismantling, methodically dismantling civilization, piece by piece, stick by stick, little by little. But start now and start now and avoid the rush. But just more evidence that things are not going as well as we think. Somebody, I can't remember who, posted a link to a video with Jordan Peterson and another guy, I can't remember his name, and they were talking about logical optimism or something like that. And I've seen other videos like this, TED Talks, where people are like, well, the evidence shows that life is getting better and better for humans. It depends on which evidence you're looking at, right? So, yeah, sure. We're getting smarter, we're getting better, we're doing things better on a lot of levels. We are doing that. That's very true. Again, it's a race for time. Are we going to get smarter and smarter and better quickly enough to avoid these obvious signs that things are getting much worse? The development of human beings has led to some very catastrophic changes in our environment. And that's the main one, right? You can't actually logically say, well, life's getting better and better. Yeah, for humans, sure, life is getting better and better. But for the rest of the planet, not so much. So if you want to ignore all the other species of the planet and the entire environmental degradation that we're doing, and just focus on how humans are getting better and better, sure, total optimism. It's future is so bright, bro. But if you want to take off those rose-colored sunglasses for a moment, just a moment there, and look what we're doing to the rest of the planet and the other creatures that live on this planet, and the consequences of the things that we're doing to the planet that are quickly catching up with us, and the evidence of those things happening, the evidence of the planet catching, those consequences catching up with us are everywhere. You have to kind of ignore them in order to go, it's just getting better and better, guys. Yeah. I don't know. Don't know about that. Anyways, yeah, are human beings getting better and better when we've caused such climate disruption that, Texas freezes over for a week and people almost starve to death or die of exposure because of this, or die of lack of water or drinking water? Sounds like it's getting a lot better. When people start not having enough to eat because of climate change, that's going to be ample evidence that things are getting better and better. The Arctic is, yes, exactly. Rudol's Vedno. Blue Ocean event is around the corner. Things are getting better and better. We're losing all the ice in the Arctic. That means we can, deliver natural gas in the middle of the winter in the Arctic. That's, progress. Humans. Anyways, not to besmirch the person that sent me that link. I get it. It's something to take in. It's an interesting conversation. On some levels, it's true, right? On some levels, it is true. There are ways in which we are developing and evolving. Again, I will pose the question, are we evolving fast enough to avoid our own destruction? That is what I'd like to know. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. I'll be back with a short neo-realism in about 15 minutes on Rockfin only. And I'll see you all then. Peace.